I recently started to make a series called Nerf War Buff, and in this series, basically, I want to address the update notes, specifically how they apply to the Mesmer class, because that's the one I play the most, so it's the one I know the best. I've only made one video in this series so far that addressed the December 14th update. The one I'm going to be talking about today is January 3rd. It's the first update of 2013. So if we take a look at it, we can see that they made some minor changes to the actual game. Winter's Day was updated. Basically, that's just, they reverted back to the old look of Guild Wars. It was all wintered up, so to speak, for the holidays. So the snow's gone and all that. Basically, Lion's Archer looks like it did prior to the update for the holidays. They also mentioned something about the gem store, which I'm not going to go into. It's only one sentence, anyways. But usually when you see the update notes, you get a long list of different profession changes that affect, the mechanics or the traits, etc. As opposed to a long list that, like we see here, there's actually only one profession that's listed, and that's the Mesmer. So I'm just going to basically read this off since it's so short. But basically, the first thing that they talk about is shatter skills now share a global 0.25 second recharge to prevent multiple shatter effects triggering on the same illusion. Basically, what this is saying is prior to this fix, it is a fix, not a nerf or a buff, it's sort of in between. Basically, Mesmer's had the option to shatter or get the shatter effects off of one illusion. And so basically, you could do something like Mind Rack and Cry of Frustration, and one illusion would allow for both of those to trigger at the same time. So you could get the extra damage, the 3 stacks of confusion, and the damage from the Mind Rack just for one illusion if you pressed the shatter skills, the F1 through 4 buttons quickly enough. So that, if this fix prevents Mesmers from abusing this exploit, people could do it accidentally, so it was kind of a necessary thing. The 0.25 second recharge, if you're watching this video, there's something should pop up where I'll show footage of the Mesmer using shatters. The difference in the shatter times is not noticeable at all. The 0.25 seconds, like I said, just prevents people from getting that shatter effects from the different illusions. It doesn't actually affect really how quickly you can use. I mean, you can quickly go from Mind Rack to Distortion to Cry Frustration, so the transitions between those shatters does not take long. So that's not to be a concern. So wasn't a nerf. However, that wasn't a nerf. That's not to say we didn't get nerfed at all. If you read here, Shattered Strength, this trait now grants 1 stack of might per illusion shattered. If we go back to the December updates, we'll see that Shattered Strength was increased to 3 stacks of might and a 10-second duration. So basically, they cut down the amount of might that you can acquire from this minor trait in the illusion tree by by 2/3 what it used to be. Basically, it's a third as strong as it used to be in terms of strength. Now, this is kind of problematic for the PvE Mesmer. I was running a bunker build, but after they buffed the Shattered Strength trait, I invested some more points into illusion so I could get this minor trait. Basically, what I would do is I'd get 25 stacks of might, use the Signet of Inspiration, so I would pass that 25 stacks of might to my party members. And then essentially there would be 5 players with a full, the maximum amount of might that you can have. Use that with, pop a time warp on a boss and your whole party's doing tons of damage. So I was able to tank while also providing, offensive power to the rest of my team. I think it was a good thing for Mesmers. I think it's in terms of PvE. Mesmers are supposed to be sort of the debuffer and the buffer class. They're supposed to be able to debuff enemies very well and buff their allies very well. And I thought this was a great way to do it indirectly, just how the Mesmer functions, sort of an indirect profession. With that being said, I really am hoping that they bring a split, a defined line between PvE and PvP. I was hoping they wouldn't originally. I was hoping they could balance it otherwise, but it just doesn't seem possible anymore. They've already somewhat split the skills a little, but I think there needs to be a clear, a more definitive line between those two things. If we look at the forums here, there's a lot of complaints about the Mesmer now. Shelving Mesmer for good. Join me. The thoughts about the new updates, the Nerf baby update not suitable for PvE. Kind of agree that the update's not suitable for PvE, or maybe it's not favorable. Mesmers are still viable in PvE. Some people are making a bigger deal out of this than it really is, and a lot of people just didn't understand that that the 2.5-second recharge really isn't a nerf at all. I guess they misread it or misunderstood what it meant, but that's not a nerf. The shattered strength nerf is a nerf, but really it affects us PvE mesmers negatively, but it was actually probably necessary in terms of PvE and world versus world. Shatters were already really strong, and to buff them like they did and increase the strength of shatter builds by such a large degree was probably, they lacked foresight on their part to do that. And the reason people are mad is because it really creates a sense of, it's sort of like a seesaw. This is a pendulum of constant nerfing and buffing when they really should try to keep it stable. And so I'm glad they didn't revert completely back. We still get the 10-second duration, which is twice what it used to be. The 5-second duration for Shattered Strength, it is now 10 seconds. So in a sense, Shattered Strength is twice as strong as it originally was before the buff. It's not 5 times as strong like it would be if we got 3 stacks of might, even maybe more than 5 times. But the point is being, we got, the shattered builds got toned down just a little bit. But if you look at the SPVP forums, a developer actually responded to players complaining about the shatter builds, and they were saying that they're way too overpowered. And the developer said that they were going to nerf the build, and he wasn't even specific saying shattered strength. He said the build. So I was more worried that the recharge was going to actually be something like 3 to 4 seconds to prevent people from, chaining their shatters, which would have been awful. Or maybe the burst damage from Mind Rack would be lessened, or something terrible for shatters. But really, the shattered strength nerf isn't that big of a deal for PvE mesmers. Yes, it's definitely not favorable for any type of mesmers. But since I normally do PvE and some world v world, it's disappointing, but it's nothing that I'm going to cry over or shelf my Mesmer as people are saying. The other nerfs in the past where phantasms weren't even hitting half the time, those were big deals. This, it's a minor inconvenience. So stick with the class if you've already major characters, and if you're wondering about whether or not you should make a Mesmer, are they strong for PvP, for PvE, for World vs. World? Yes, they're strong for all of them. I think all the classes have a somewhat of a fair chance. The game still needs more balance, but then the Mesmer is still one of the stronger classes to play in terms of PvP, and I think it has a lot to contribute in PvE. So don't be disheartened by people complaining on the forums. The Mesmer is still just fine. If you like this video, please feel free to give it a like. I would like to see some comments, maybe your thoughts about how you view this nerf, or is it really a nerf at all? Anyways, thank you for watching the videos. I appreciate all the support, and have a good day.